simple, Jay. No pictures.
Luke Palalis asks, do you think there will ever be a Redwall MMORPG? Also, how involved will food be in the current game?
The first question is a lot easier to answer, which is no. MMORPGs are huge undertakings. They take massive teams and gazillions of dollars, and the short stories like Soma Games is just not that kind of company. We're not that big. And if we try to approach some kind of huge MMO, we just fail. There's not enough time, there's not enough money. We're not the shop to do that. It might be someone else wants to take that on, and that would be awesome, but that's not what we're working on. Now, the food question is something that we are working on. It's something that's very intriguing to me. One of the most common comments we get from people about what is important about Redwall is the food. Everyone remembers the food and the feasts and all that kind of stuff. So in short, from a storytelling perspective, there's definitely big parts of food. For one thing, there's just, as we're traveling through the first book, food becomes part of the story, and so you have to have that rolled in there. But we are also working on ways to make food part of the gaming experience, and we've got several things sort of in work. But I'll be really honest, it's been hard to find game mechanics out there of people who have made good, interesting games about food, and it's such a visceral experience in real life. It's hard to gamify it, and we've been looking for good examples. So I don't mind asking this question back: is who out there has seen a really good food or cooking game that might give us some inclination? You know, growing crops and crafting things, that's one possibility, and it's one of the kind of things that comes most to mind. But to be honest, we're hoping for something better. So if you have any ideas or you've seen any games that you think approached food in a really neat way, let us know. But definitely food in cooking and feasting is a huge part of Redwall, and it will definitely be in the game.
Welcome to Flurry Friday. Today we want to talk about RealSense. So I don't think we ever did a Flurry Friday on this before, but we definitely did several videos, especially during the Ultimate Coder Challenges. We were part of 2 of those, and I know we did a lot of videos that are around that. But back then, it was called perceptual computing, and so now it's called RealSense. And so in case you're out of the loop, here's one of the more current. This is the F200 camera, I believe, and it comes down to, this is sort of Intel's depth sensing, gesture recognition. In a way, if I can avoid the copyright problems, this is sort of like the desktop version of the Microsoft Kinect, kind of, if that helps you in the right space. We got involved with perceptual computing way back when it was just coming out, and it really captured our attention. And maybe I should say my attention. I don't know if anyone else cares. I think it's awesome. And we were down at IDF, and we got a chance to see this, and it really caught a fire in thinking about how interesting this technology was and the kinds of things that you could do with it. But I admit that at the first blush, your first thought is, how can we replace some existing thing, and often it's the mouse, with sort of a hands-free thing. And so the first place a lot of people go is they want to make Minority Report, that's sort of like a movie thing interface. And so they're thinking about, how do I basically use my hand as a mouse? And that's a natural enough place to go. But over the last couple years, we have just got more and more into this. The hardware and the software have gotten better and better, like remarkably so. And yet the thinking is still very new. So we figured out that one of the things you need to do with RealSense is you really got to get your head into a totally different space. When we did an update, sort of a Where We've Been update, Flurry Friday, a while back, one of the projects that I forgot to mention was something called Magic and Magnums. And so this was something that we had started as a totally different property for Stargate. But long story short, and there was a lot of blah, 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 but in the end, it never got released as Stargate. It got released as Magic and Magnums, which was this sort of like tongue-in-cheek, ridiculous game where it's sort of an orbital shooter, and there's the fantasy characters versus the evil mercenaries, and they're fighting over resources and stuff. So it's meant to be a really gag kind of game, but the point is we made a version of that game that ran entirely on the RealSense engine. So it runs entirely on voice commands, hand controls, everything else, everything soup to nuts, the menus, everything. And we had some really fascinating conversations as that went through about 9,000 iterations about the ways in which we adopted RealSense technology. And it comes down to this. So long as you're trying to replace something like a keyboard or a mouse, you're thinking about it wrong. You have to really get your brain into a spot that says, if I just saw my hands and my face and these kinds of things, if we just saw those as my input mechanisms, what would I do for that? And the truth is, you wind up with some really different gameplay mechanics. You wind up with some totally different input mechanisms. The entire thing becomes very spatial, very relational. There are no text inputs. There's no clicking. There are no like single pixel dots. Like everything has to be imagined in a radically different way. What was interesting is like that process not only like made us totally rebuild how we did RealSense applications, but it radically affected the way we handled touch applications, because we made the recognition that the distance between a keyboard and a mouse and touch is smaller than the difference between keyboard and RealSense. The problem is actually still the same, that we are carrying forward a lot of metaphors, a lot of input metaphors from mouse and keyboard into the touch realm that they shouldn't. So let me give you a quick example that happened in Magic and Magnums, is that typically with shooters, with any kind of shooter, you are shooting where you aim, right? So the center of my screen is both where I'm looking and it's also where I'm aiming. But the truth is, why? Why is there a necessity to couple those two things together? And we realized that we could do it a very different way, so that we could decouple the camera from the shooting by letting you steer the camera totally independently, and I would use a 2-finger touch to shoot wherever the heck I wanted to shoot. And it basically, instead of me putting my finger on a thing so it obscures exactly what I'm trying to shoot, by using a spread, now I just shoot in the center point, and we have a totally different mechanism. And it works so much better. And at first people look at it and they go, well, that's not what I expect. They don't really know what to think about it. But as soon as they get it, we've had so many aha moments of folks going like, wow, that's really different. And that was all done by RealSense. I kind of like got the ball rolling. One of the other projects we did was called Cloak and Badger, and it was kind of a little fun thing we made with the Redwall characters. But the technology was that RealSense allows you to view someone's emotions, and so you can watch the player to see if they're smiling or frowning or having fun or that kind of thing. And so we took just an old kind of like RPG dialogue tree and turned it where basically the way that you moved the dialogue forward was how you emoted. So if I was smiling, that was going to bring the tree this way. If I frowned, it was going to bring it that way, whatever. And it turned out to be a really interesting mechanism, even though it was kind of a small demo. We had a lot of fun with it. Back in IDF 2015, we were really glad, because by this time now, RealSense was 2 or 3 years old, and you're never quite sure when these things are going to come or go. But we were super glad to see that Intel had really doubled down on the technology. They had continued to make steady improvements. They'd continued to invest in it. RealSense continues to be the kind of technology that really has like untapped potential, and we're fired up to do more stuff with it. We want to include it in more and more of our work. We want to see like how it's going to get out there and change the world, because it's fascinating, but it's totally untraveled territory, and largely no one really quite knows what to do with it yet, which makes it fun. Who knows what we're going to come up with? And folks have done all kinds of fun stuff already, and we're just getting started. So we continue to be excited about RealSense, and we would encourage you guys to check it out at Intel on the dev kit, because they're just rolling out more and better stuff all the time. And that sounds like it's a pitch for Intel, and it's not. We're just excited to keep working on it. And we think that they've got something that, from a developer perspective, is like green fields, man. Like, check it out. We want to see like what can we do in the gaming world. So that's kind of our RealSense update, and look forward to seeing you guys on another one. Bye-bye.